because nothing costs $1 anymore. So you 2 pennies each time you go up $1. Louise, okay, you do the fucking math in your head. Welcome to, well, now it's like the Wednesday morning. Well, let's just call it the Tuesday night edition of Late Night with us here at Candid. We started late because earlier in the day, I fell asleep on that couch. And then we had to chase down some stuff. And then I had to go to the gym because it's a compulsion. And then I came back and I listened to Janela Carrera and Edith Pangilinan and a recording that we did regarding tax refunds. And I fell asleep listening to them being boring. And then we got the show together. And then we were just taking our sweet ass time. But right now we are 35 days brining. Well, we're not brining, but that fat pig in a blanket, Rendrati Celeslim Tiako, is like a turkey brining in her filth of unethical behavior when 35 nights ago, James Hubert, or Herbert, Jim Herbert, past chairman of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, got Christine Calvo drunk at the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association charity gala in Tumon. He left, drunk as no one's business, ran into the Akanta Mall, reversed real fast, hit a guy, injured him, and he wasn't able to drive off because some passersby stopped him from going anywhere. But Rendrati, because that's her best friend, they eat turkeys together, she didn't feel it was fashionable to publish that in her paper. Neither did she feel that it was in the interest of the public to publish in her paper that her own editor for several years, David Crisostomo, was peddling drugs out of her newsroom and out of the Federal Public Defender's house. And we only didn't bring it up last night because of the severity of last night's subject matter, but we're gonna bring this up every night until the PDN makes some amends for just how full of shit that newspaper is. Because it's created this one class of Guamanians, you know, the friends of the socialites and the high class people. And then there's this whole other class of Guamanians who become subjects of their newspaper whenever the rest of us fuck up, right? So there's that. The title of this show tonight is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we'll get to the ugly, which is the funniest part. But let's start with the good. Today, well, earlier tonight, there were two confirmation hearings held by Senator Jose Pito Tirlahi. That guy's funny as fuck, okay? He's like my favorite senator, you know, aside from like Clint, because Clint got weed passed. But Senator Pito Tirlahi, God bless him, this guy can make a confirmation hearing, and those are normally boring ass things. He makes them really fun because he cracks all these jokes, and he even had to apologize. He was like, you know, my wife, she was getting mad at me. You know, she was saying, you know, Pito, why do you have to make jokes? You know, it's a very professional thing that we're in. And I said, well, you know, because everybody's falling asleep, babe. Just, we have to do something. We cannot be just stiff up here. I love that. I love Senator Jose Pito Tirlahi. Anyway, he held two confirmation hearings. He is the chair of the Committee on Public Safety, Veterans, and Military Affairs. And two major appointments by Governor Lulian Guerrero came before the legislature today for their confirmation hearing in the lead up to a vote on whether the legislature will confirm their appointments to the cabinet. The first is Chief of Police Steve Ignacio. Now, the chief of, that's really loud, right? I have these really big lips, so that when I blow smoke out, it makes this. I don't even know how to whistle. That's how big my lips are. They don't let me whistle, and it also could have something to do with my Madonna gap. But Steve Ignacio is a captain in the police force. He's been a police officer for a very long time. He served with distinction. People love this guy because, well, he's a stand-up guy, straight up, honest. He got into office, and even before his confirmation, he started making changes to the Guam Police Department, which says a lot about his character and says that this guy has some balls. Because normally, especially for police chiefs, they don't start making changes until they're confirmed by the legislature. They like to just, pull the wool over the senator's eyes. And I don't even know if I said that saying right, but they like to deceive the senators before confirmations by being these very nice people who don't make these changes, because the rank and file who are disgruntled by the changes that a cabinet member makes, they start complaining to senators anonymously. Well, Steve Ignacio started making changes over at the Guam Police Department prior to his confirmation, and perhaps the senators see this and appreciate it. They appreciate that this guy's a man of integrity and is able to make these changes despite if they're popular or not popular. But from what I see, if that guy is going to shut down Mandania, well, that is my fucking hero right there. So bravo to Chief of Police Steve Ignacio, and congratulations on your confirmation here. I didn't even realize that he's from Marito. Yeah, Talto Malesa. I'm familiar Doma. Yeah. My great grandpa, Tomas Doma, was from Marito and also liked to procreate in Inarahan. My grandma, I asked her, Grandma, how many brothers and sisters do you have? And she said 16. And then another time she was getting older, I was like, Grandma, how many brothers and sisters do you have? 20, 21, 22. And I was like, you told me 16. Well, there's the ones that don't count. I was like, Grandma, who's Auntie Linda? How come I never heard of Auntie Linda before? Auntie Linda stopped by the house. How come I never heard of Auntie Linda before? Hey, boy. Hey, famat put up mo diablo. Go from birikero na good. Just always minding my business or minding other people's business, putting my nose where it shouldn't be. I think I was born to be in this reporter talk show, get up in everyone's business role or something. I guess I wasn't meant to have a private life. I tried for many years to have a private life. That didn't fucking work. The second person who was up for confirmation in the second hearing tonight is Lieutenant Colonel Esther Agigi, who is with the Guam Army National Guard, and it's an amazing story of achievement and merit that this woman has. I couldn't do her curriculum vitae any justice by explaining it, but I'll try because she deserves at least our effort to explain how qualified she is for this job. And there was a silent, how should you say, avalanche of disgruntled, misogynistic men at the top of the Guam National Guard, or who used to be at the top of the Guam National Guard, who were gunning for her and who were behind closed doors and also through anonymous emails and all this cowardly shit were trying to get rid of Esther Agigi's nomination as the Adjutant General. And she withstood all that, just like she withstood their efforts to get rid of her when in the middle of War College. They were trying to get her out of the Guam National Guard. And she went to War College on her own volition because she made it that far high up in the ranks of the Guam National Guard. And she's someone who we should all be proud of. And I think it was Jane Flores. Was it Jane Flores or was it Tello Taitigui? I think it was Tello Taitigui, Senator Tello Taitigui, who said during Colonel Agigi's confirmation hearing that she feels safer knowing she's at the helm. And it was Jane Flores who said that, and this is not a direct quote, but she said, it's really nice to have a woman like Esther Agigi to look up to for her daughters and, her future grandchildren, her future granddaughters, and all the women and all the young girls of Guam and all the young boys of Guam, to have someone like Esther Agigi to look up to, because her story of achievement and humility and integrity really is something that all of us should aspire to. And she's just such a remarkable person. It was Senator Therese Terlahi or Senator Regine Lee, I can't remember. One of them asked her, how would you deal with the controversy that you face? How would you deal with those people under her now as the new Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard. She's yet to be confirmed, but Senator Pito Talahi said, guarantee. She goes, he said to her, you're going to get confirmed, guarantee. I just love that guy. So, how would you deal with these people, these men, who have been really trying to knock you down? And her response was something remarkable. She said, I pray for my enemies. And in my head, I was thinking, man, I really hope that she means that she prays for her enemies because she is just gonna fuck them up, like. But I don't think so. I don't think she meant that. I think she meant she prays for them because she honestly is like, she believes in God, and she's a God-fearing woman, and she's like all about values and stuff. Because I was like, man, if that were me, not that I would ever have survived even basic training in the military, but let's just say, all right, that I gathered up the courage to propel outside of a fucking helicopter and land in water, or like use a parachute or something. Just things that just will never ever happen in life, okay, for me. But let's just say that I was able to do all of that, and then I made it to a point in my career where I'm before the legislature, and they're asking me that question, and they're like, what would you do? And if I were to answer honestly, I'd be like, well, senators, just so you know, and I hope none of them are your friends, but I'm going to systematically take out each and every one of those motherfuckers, and I'll make them pay for what they did. I'm just being honest, okay? That's what we're supposed to do here. I'd raise my hand, took an oath, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then they'll say I'm Kaksika, and then, we'll move on from there. But moving on from that, because, and congratulations to Lieutenant Colonel Esther Agigi, who is on her way to becoming the Adjutant General confirmed by the legislature, and to Chief of Police Steve Ignacio, who looks like he'll be getting confirmed as well, and every single senator who spoke at the confirmation hearing, and I believe there were 9 of them during both panels, said that they would support her confirmation. So that's more than the 8 senators needed. It looks like they have the votes. Congratulations to them all around. Now, for more of the good, kind of going into the bad, and maybe a little bit of good. This is about tax refunds. So for the past 2 weeks, we at Candidate have been dogging the administration. We've been dogging the administration for answers on tax refunds because we know that yesterday was the tax filing deadline. So we understand that there is a projected cash flow that the administration anticipated would come in yesterday. That money has now come in. There's a fuck ton of money in the accounts right now. There was a fuck ton of money in the accounts over the past few months that wasn't spent. But today, in an interview that we were able to get with Ed Byrne, and it was only after I roamed the halls of the Department of Administration, going into every single office that they have, demanding all kinds of public information. I was like, look, if the director is not going to see me, I'm just going to bother every single fucking office here. And I'm just going to be like, all right, why don't you provide for me on demand, according to Chapter 10 of Title 5, Guam Code Annotated, the Freedom of Information Act, my right to public inspection of the governor's pay stubs. And they were like, hold on, sir, let me get clearance from the director. I was like, why don't you do that? Because if you don't provide this to me, you're going to owe me $1,000 in court. I'm going to file a criminal misdemeanor complaint against you for denying that information from the public. And then I went to the HR office, and I was like, why don't you give me all of the duties and responsibilities on paper of every single employee at the governor's office? And Francis, my friend who works there, he was like, I don't think they have that. And I was like, do you think you could verify that for me? Because I think it's very interesting. The public would really like to know that no one who's making all those high salaries at the governor's office has a sheet of duties and responsibilities assigned to each one of them. Because even even during the Calvo administration, for as fucking corrupt as he was, I remember in the very beginning, we each had to turn in our proposed duties and responsibilities to Frank Ariola, and he formalized those duties and responsibilities. And I'm almost certain that was turned into the Department of Administration, even though we were unclassified employees. Frank wanted to show that we were a professional body and that we all had our whatever. And I just loaded my duties and responsibilities with all this shit that like gave me like all this authority to do things. And Frank never even caught it. He never even he turned that sucker in. And all policy matters pertaining to I was out to make a difference, okay? That's why I did that shit. But they didn't have any. The current governor's office, Governor Lulian Guerrero's administration, their employees do not have any listed duties and responsibilities according to the Department of Administration's Human Resources Division. We also went to the Division of Accounts because that's where all of the information on tax refunds, on all of the checking and savings accounts in the money markets and bonds of the government of Guam are kept, as far as cash payments, cash disbursements, and receipts are concerned. And I was like, I'd like to see those accounts. And they're like, hold on, sir, let me get clearance from the director. And I was like, yeah, can you just let him know? So every office I went to, they all had to go and get clearance from the director. So they were all going back to the second floor to the director's office to tell them, hi, Troy Torres is demanding public inspection of these public documents. What do we do? So like every 5-10 minutes, Ed Byrne, the director of administration, his whatever meeting he was having, him getting interrupted because every one of his managers throughout every division at DOA was like, Troy Torres is here to ask for this. And all I fucking wanted was the tax refund information. And for some strange reason, the administration just wasn't providing it. Well, I talked to Ed Byrne, and Ed Byrne said that money that's in the tax refunds accounts, this some $5 million that keeps floating, from December to January to the latest is the end of February. We still haven't seen the March report, but we just know that $5 million hasn't been spent on refunds. But according to Ed, that money is checks that are outstanding, meaning they wrote these checks a while ago for tax refunds and people just haven't cashed these checks. After a while, and I don't know what the number of years is, I think it might be 3 years. I think then Senator Mike St. wrote a law that took the period of time from like 10 or 6 years and brought it down to 3 years. That's the amount of time that you have from the time that you get a tax refund check from the government of Guam to actually cash that check. Or it's called, it's cheated to the government of Guam. So they have to keep the money in the account for however long that check was written for, in whatever period of time the escheatment law runs, and they can't touch that money because, well, what if someone cashes the check? Then they have to make sure the money's in the account so it doesn't bounce. So that's according to Ed Byrne. But what I found interesting was for like maybe 3 or 4 times in the interview, he said, why don't you check the Department of Revenue and Taxation because we can't pay the money until, and he could have just told me, he could have just said until they give us the go-ahead to do it. But he kept saying until they process those refunds and tell us to cut the check. So there was an extra step there before cutting the check. And he said it like 3 or 4 times, and then I started to understand clearly where this problem is. Yes, there is a cash problem, but that's not anything new. That's not a surprise at all. But it seems that the reason they've been slow to be paying out these refunds isn't necessarily just a cash issue, and we're going to try and verify with Rev and Tax, it seems like they're kind of behind in processing these tax refunds. I don't know why. Like they have systems over at Rev and Tax. I guess we'll try to find out more. And it's probably why we didn't get any announcement today from the governor's office that a fuck ton of refund checks would be mailed out, because they have a fuck ton of money right now. I'm telling you, they have a fuck ton of money that flowed into the coffers yesterday when people paid their taxes. So why they wouldn't announce that refund checks are being cut is somewhat of a mystery, unless you consider that they just aren't ready to cut the checks, not because the money's not there, but because they haven't processed the refunds yet. We'll try to find out more about that tomorrow, but like I said, if they don't pay the refunds this week, there's something terribly wrong with the government of Guam. And I made this comment in when I was roaming those halls today. I was like, it takes the Leon Guerrero administration like way longer to answer financial questions than the Calvo administration ever did. And if I'm gonna like say something that comparatively is good for Eddie Calvo, then you know that shit is bad for Leon Guerrero. Because I do not ever want to say anything good about that fucking lisping motherfucker, but with his drunk wife. But it's true, and we have to be real here. And like more importantly, it sure as hell didn't take Eddie Calvo this long to pay tax refunds. Well, in the 2 weeks that we've been trying to get information from the governor's office and the Department of Administration on the cash situation and the financial situation overall, they were just pissing us off by roadblocking us every single step of the way. And yesterday it came to a head when we called, in the morning we called Edith Pangilinan, the deputy director over at DOA, and then we called Janela Carrera right after Edith Pangilinan hung up on us because she was taking too long, taking a shit in the bathroom, and we were pissed off that she put us on hold for 26 minutes and then hung up the phone. But you know what? I want you guys to hear it for yourself. We cut out the 26-minute wait. Don't worry about that. And well, let's just roll that video right now. Oh, by the way, if you want to call us at 922-6397 or 979-6397, and we can have a conversation on the phone. And you can cuss. Hi, may I please speak with Ed Byrne? Troy Torres and Johnny Rosario with Candid News. We're live.
I was going to tell you to do that. Mrs. Jones.
Wasn't this? Oh no, that's Mrs. Robinson. That's
no,
that's Christine Calvo's sister, Mrs. Robinson.
Like, oh, you're part of the
Hello,
Jones.
may I help you?
Hi, you're not Ed Byrne.
No, I know. Hi, Mr. Troy.
Hi,
Troy.
who's this?
This is Pat again.
Hey,
I'm
Patty.
sorry, Mr. Byrne is he's really at the legislature regarding some autism hearing.
He's really at the legislature.
Yeah, he's really there, sir. Yeah, so do you want to leave a message?
No, we want to talk to Edith Pangilinan then.
Okay, one moment then, okay?
Thank you.
Have a good day. Happy
You
Easter.
too. Happy
One
Easter.
moment.
Do you guys celebrate Easter? Like my family hasn't done that since my grandparents died. That was like a long time ago. Family gatherings in the Torres family consisted of really good food, my grandma telling me to get the fuck out of the kitchen, and my grandpa, holy shit, if anyone could outdrink
Hello,
Christine
Mr.
Calvo.
Torres?
Yes.
I'm sorry, she just stepped out to the ladies' room.
Oh, we'll wait for her then.
You wait. Okay, sir. Okay.
Oh, they hung up.
Ah, kiss. Oh yeah, you think we don't know how to call back? Huh?
Even when Troy calls me and I don't answer, are you okay, Cello?
Company this Edith.
Hi, Miss Pangilinan. This is Troy Torres with Candid News.
Company Troy.
Today I'm here with Johnny Rosario, and we have a full audience waiting for information regarding tax refunds. It's been 2 weeks since I've been requesting information on tax refunds, and it's been longer than the law has allowed for freedom of information request for your cash flow model and for information on when cash would be flowing for the payment of tax refunds. So we have several questions to ask you. First of which is when 2018 tax refunds will be coming out.
Troy, we do not determine when the tax refunds will be released until the Director of Revenue Tax gives us that information.
And when will the Director of Revenue Tax be releasing that information to DOA? Because I know you guys work on one fiscal team with near daily meetings at the governor's office with the chief fiscal advisor.
Oh no, we don't meet daily. we meet weekly. We don't meet daily.
Okay, well do you want to answer the question?
Okay,
No, no, Ms. Pangilinan, you are the Deputy Director of Administration. Even though you've bifurcated responsibilities at that agency, you know that I've been asking these questions for 2 weeks. And so there's just no real reason that people at the Department of Administration cannot offer taxpayers this information. It's their money.
Okay, Troy, am I on the air again?
Yes, you are. You
I
are
honestly
live.
don't appreciate that.
Edith,
Yes,
no
I mean,
one cares whether you appreciate that, Edith. What they care about is where their tax refunds are.
We were on hold for
We were on hold for 23 minutes while you were in the restroom.
I was
You
talking-
hung up on us.
Troy, don't you know that the Department of Administration is busy? On my way out, do I need to explain myself on the air? Honestly,
Yes,
I-
if
I
this is a
never went
transparent
outside there.
government that the
I'm
governor
sorry.
promised,
I'm sorry.
if this is a transparent government that the
Yes,
governor
you are
promised,
transparent.
then yes, you have to explain yourself on the air
I'm
to
sorry.
the people.
I'm sorry, Mr. Torres. You're actually
I'm not what?
not being reasonable. I'm gonna have to hang up on you. I'm sorry.
Well, for all the viewers to see.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, you run away from the questions, Miss Pangilinan. Are you hanging up yet?
Thank you.
No, that doesn't deserve a you're welcome. Are you
They're hiding something, Troy. Who are you calling?
Janella Carrera.
Don't, yeah.
Janella,
Yes.
your Deputy Director of Administration refused to answer any of our questions on tax refunds.
And she's waiting for Bern.
And she said she's just going to wait for Ed Byrne. And I challenged her that she's the Deputy Director of Administration, and should have answers about the people's tax refunds. And then she asked me if we were live, and I said yes. And then she said she didn't appreciate being live, and asked whether it was necessary to provide these answers live. I said yes, because they're for our viewers, for money that doesn't belong to her and actually belongs to them. And then she hung up the phone after she put me on hold for all of us on hold for 24 effing minutes, and then hung up.
And she said she cannot tell us. We have to wait for DOA director. So there's
Are
a
you,
gag order.
am I on live right now?
Yes, you are live right now.
Okay.
Why, Janella, does that make a difference to government officials, whether or not you're live? Your conduct should be the same whether or not you're live. Your ability to answer these questions and to provide answers to the public transparently and with accountability in mind, it shouldn't matter.
Troy, I think what you're misunderstanding is the idea or the notion that we're live, and then the pressure that people feel when they know they're live, especially when the questions are being demanded.
Janella, that pressure is allayed by the $119,000 that Edith Pangilinan is paid.
Publicly speaking, there's just some people that just don't have, that ability to publicly speak, especially when they know that, there's a certain demanding nature in the questions that are being asked.
Janella, we're not asking Edith Pangilinan about her personal finances. We're asking her about her job,
I
for which she gets
understand.
paid a lot of money to perform that job and to answer to the public.
I understand what you're saying, Troy, but, I think that the questions that you asked are the same questions that have been asked, and we've given you the responses as best as we can.
No, because the questions have been unanswered as to when 2018 tax refunds will be released.
Right, and the answer is we don't have that information.
Even with $5 million sitting in the income tax refund checking account, even with that,
We've addressed that already.
by saying that that money is not in that account, yet your reports are saying something different.
These are not
So
our
you
reports.
pulled the March report?
Yes,
Your March report isn't out yet.
the last report online.
Oh, it is?
Okay,
No,
well,
the last
I,
report
yeah, I mean, I
showed
don't know,
almost $5 million.
you're saying it was there in February, but. you know,
Okay,
I'm gonna
well,
see,
let's do the math then, Janella. Let's do the math. It was there at the end of February. There's $5 million at the end of February. Between the end of February and April, let's say 15th, has $5 million in tax refunds been released by the administration?
Okay,
No. The answer is no. I'm looking for an answer, but the answer is no. Where is that money?
as I said, those are questions that will have to be answered by DOA.
What are you guys hiding? DOA is not answering these questions. DOA is running away from these questions, Janella. So my question now is, what are you guys hiding?
Troy, I think, you know, if we can discuss this without, you know,
No, no more of that. No, we gave you guys that opportunity
you know,
already.
display of aggressive questioning.
We're trying to get the truth, aggressive questioning, we're trying to get the truth. I'm not asking about personal financials, affairs, or, you know, friendships or anything like that. I'm asking about the people's money.
Right, I get that, but like we've been telling you, we don't know when 2018 today's tax filing day.
Fine,
Hopefully after
then
today,
where is the money?
we'll have a better understanding, a better picture of when we'll be able to pay out tax refunds.
Then where is the money if you don't have that answer as to when refunds will come out? Where is the tax refund money then?
What do you mean, where's the tax refund money?
Where is it? Because, so you're not going to answer when 2018 tax refunds are going to come out. And I'm going to venture to guess that it's probably going to come out tomorrow because of the windfall of cash that you're going to get today. And for some strange reason, you guys just aren't answering this question. But all that aside, there's still $5 million that was in that account at the end of February. You have not paid anywhere near $5 million in refunds since that date. Where's the money?
So without seeing what's in the account now, what we're sitting in there in March, I can't answer that question for you.
Well, that's why we're calling the Department of Administration.
I really hate talking to I guess there's no real nice way of saying this. Stupid people and liars. Yeah. I really because the only thing that ever comes out of talking to stupid people who also lie is they just waste time. You know, because, you know, they waste time like expressing the blah, blah, blah that comes out of their mouths. You know, that takes time, you know, and then I have to listen, and that takes time. And then there's still the matter of getting to the truth. And the longer they skirt around it, the longer it takes to get to the truth. And we still don't have the truth. Well, we're a little closer to it, understanding that the Department of Administration keeps punting over to the Department of Revenue and Taxation, which tells me that it isn't necessarily a cash issue, though I have a feeling DOA is hiding something, and there is some kind of cash issue. But you know what? There always is a cash issue. So I just don't understand what the big deal is here. It's like they never want to look bad. In the process of never wanting to look bad, they just look like total idiots who are hiding something. But then the problem seems to be that those refunds aren't entirely processed yet. We'll find out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I am. And tomorrow there will be this big announcement that like $20 or $25 million in tax refunds covering all the people who filed in January will be out. Maybe even like the first week of February too, who knows? Maybe this administration will surprise us. And then the only thing we'll be left to wonder is, why the fuck did they waste all that time hiding something if they were just gonna make a big ass bill? Why didn't they just say, we're preparing to make a big payment in tax refunds within the week that taxes are due, like on the week of April 15. It's not a difficult thing to do if they intend to do it. And they have all the cash flow models to show it, and then they would know from Rev and Tax whether they're prepared to process those refunds in order to get those checks cut and send them out to people. It isn't rocket science. Oh, by the way, whenever they do announce that refunds are coming out, if you get home delivery, you need to be looking at your mailbox if your mailbox doesn't have a lock, because there are people who go around to steal tax refund checks. Just so you know, that's like an actual thing. And I'm not sure how they get those tax refund checks cashed or whatever. I guess maybe they forge signatures or they make IDs. I don't know. I'm not sure. But there are some really good con artists on this island. And you would think, if you had like put just maybe 10% of that effort into graduating or like, I don't know, paying attention a little bit more or like going to get a job, maybe you wouldn't have to steal people's tax refund money, which sucks. And that's really bad. Don't steal tax refund money. People are waiting for that shit. And it's enough that the administration is withholding it from people, okay? So there's that. So that's like the good kind of going into the bad, because, not being transparent is stupid. And it goes against one of the main pillars of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio campaign in 2018. And, sadly, we're left wanting for the fulfillment of that promise. Let's move on to this picture that we put together, this little graphic we put together of three familiar faces. One is Governor Eddie Calvo. The other is Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, and there's a guy in the middle. And we wanted to know, what do these three people have in common? Well, as we were researching this guy in the middle, because of some information that we received, we found this, when we looked up his name, we found this resolution that former Senator, or then Senator Eddie Calvo, and then Senator Lou Leon Guerrero participated in giving to, among other people, this guy. He was a member of the University of Guam Student Government Association and got this nice resolution about what a wonderful job that he's done. See, the thing is that this was 13 years after his conviction for second-degree criminal sexual conduct as a first-degree felony against a boy who was 12 at the time. So, good job, governors. Good job handing out those congratulations. And what the fuck was this guy doing on a campus filled with, and I know they're adults already, but they're still kind of kids, Like, some of them still just haven't even grown up yet. And there he was, running their student government, sexual predator that he is. Now, Charles Lacey, when this whole Paul Moffness thing came up, and the abduction of the 10-year-old girl who was raped, allegedly by Paul Moffness, last Thursday, April 11, came to the forefront. Candid News went in depth about Paul Moffness and why he was a free man. Because back in 1999, he was convicted of just heinous crimes against several children, all female ages 13 through 17, during the times of the crimes that were committed. And I'm trying to get to. Don't show my screen, Chelo, because I need to protect the anonymity of the people sending me stuff. So don't show my screen. Okay. I'm just gonna read from my screen. So I got a tip about this guy, Charles Lacey, who is, it turns out, he is a registered sex offender, except that the last time he checked in was December of 2018. And this guy he like looks like a pedophile, like straight up from Criminal Minds. There is a story about this. Let me read you the story first. It was okay, why don't we go ahead and go to my screen so people can follow along in this January 18, 2019 story in the Guam Daily Post. Police arrested a convicted sex offender on Wednesday on suspicion of sexual assault, burglary, and other offenses. According to the Department of Corrections Daily Confinement Report, Charles Richard Lacey, 50, was arrested in connection with 2 criminal cases, one dating back 3 years. Lacey was charged with burglary, home invasion, and 4th-degree criminal sexual conduct in connection with a 2016 case, according to the report. He also was charged with a separate burglary charge in connection with a criminal complaint filed this year. Police have not released the details of the 2 cases. According to the Guam Sex Offender Registry, Lacey was convicted in 1993 of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old boy. The registry indicates Lacey lives in Mighty and last reported to the Superior Court last month. This was in January of this year. Joanna Bill Cruz, who is watching our show right now, says back then he needs to be off the streets. Yeah, no shit, this guy needs to be off the streets. Go off of my screen, Chelu, so I can go back to the messages that I got. So, as we were looking into this Paul Moffness thing, and we're looking at other people who have been paroled, or who were released early, or for some reason just didn't receive sentences commensurate with the crimes they committed, and also their propensity to commit these crimes again. It's 2019. For quite some time now, this society and this government has known that the sickness that sexual predators have isn't something that can be treated. There's no known scientific treatment, rehabilitation, therapy for this kind of disease. And so when you catch them, in order to keep the community safe, you're supposed to lock them up and keep them from ever being near children ever again. There's just no ands, ifs, or buts about this. So we recently got, well, just a few hours ago, I got a tip from someone who said, we kept trying to get this sex predator off the streets since 2016, but he still managed to evade the police until his arrest 3 months ago from a CSC complaint made by someone and 2 cases of breaking and entering someone's apartment when he got her incarcerated after a false complaint of aggravated assault against this person who is mentally unstable and easily manipulated. A police officer, Champion, Jesus, from the Agana precinct keeps assisting Charles Lacey from getting arrested for these criminal complaints that we have been pursuing since 2016. You know, Chris Champion, you are a motherfucker for many reasons, but I think the motherfuckeriest thing that you've ever done is help keep a sexual predator on the streets and away from prison. Because if this is true, not only should they have your badge, they should have your freedom, and you should sit and rot in a jail cell right next to Charles Lacey and Paul Moffness Jr. But holy shit, this is really bad for a police officer to help keep a fucking fugitive of the law from being arrested, and you're a police officer. Thank you. Please assist us in informing the public of this sex predator. So, do we have can you put up the graphic of Charles Lacey's Craigslist post and also his fake Facebook profile? So what you're seeing up there on the right side, or on the left side in that dark screen, and there's a red box over a picture, and that's because it's a disgusting picture of his disgusting private parts. And I didn't want to sick you guys out. So, this is a post that Charles Lacey put up on Craigslist Micronesia, Guam. It was on one of those personal things, you know, and it was how he lured people to be like his. Well, this is what this person said to me. He was convicted of molesting his young son and was sent to jail. When he got out, he manipulated a few young girls and forced them into prostitution. He did the same thing to someone who this person knows, and manipulated her for years until she finally left him after he had her falsely accused for aggravated assault, which She won her case 2 years ago. Now he is still bothering her to drop the 3 pending cases against him, which he got arrested for about 3 months ago. He has been a thorn in my family's side for about 7 years. Troy, can you please help us to expose this sex offender before he has a chance to rape or hurt another young person again? So I promised her I would. I asked, is this the person, or I said, as I understand, this dude was living in Santa Rita for a while. And she says, according to what I heard, he served a couple of years and was eventually released. A couple of years and eventually released. Great going, Gov Guam. You guys are just fucking stars. He is on the Guam Sex Offender Registry as a level 2 offender, and yes, he lived in Santa Rita and Agate. This person has a stay-away order against Charles Lacey. He currently is homeless and is wandering free on the streets, and Candid verified this. As early as 3 weeks ago, he was seen wandering the streets of Mighty and Agania, and kids all around. He used to work at Linda's coffee shop. Last I heard, a registered sex offender is not allowed to post on social media, especially that are sex related, because this person's, the person who this person is protecting has a pending court case with Judge Vern Paris for the stay-away order, and this person is frightened for her life, is going through depression. This person told me she wants to remain anonymous. And then she sent me that photo and also the pic on the Christopher Davis fake profile. If you see, so that picture on the right that says Christopher Davis Lone Feather, that is this guy Charles Lacey's fake profile, fake Facebook profile that he uses to pick up young people and, sexually assault them, I guess. So spread it around, show people, let people know that this Christopher Davis profile is a fake profile. The jig is up for this guy. I mean, he'll probably make a new Facebook thing, but, showing this fake Facebook profile to people may help. Maybe if it helps just one person to stay away from Charles Lacey, I mean, then you've saved one person's life. And if it does anything to help someone who was already hurt by Charles Lacey identify Charles Lacey by providing this information to them, then you're really helping them to find closure to the crime that they've survived from Charles Lacey. So another case of a sexual predator on our streets, and then we're gonna probably bring the story tomorrow about a guy named Robert Patterson, who was someone else who was paroled by that genius Michelle Hope Titano and her parole board, who, when he was paroled, just did the same damn thing that he went to jail for, which was sexually assault a minor. The parole board, they're just a bunch of fucking winners, I guess, because incredible. All these kids count on you guys, their parents, their grandparents, the support systems that they have at home. They and you count on the government to provide other certain support systems. And when one part of that support system, one integral part of that support system is its correctional programs, rehabilitative programs, and in the case of sexual predators, incarceration programs, when that fails, then it turns everything topsy-turvy, not just in the justice system, but in the minds of these kids who are counting on everybody else to keep them safe. They don't walk to the bus stop thinking that they're going to get sexually molested by a complete stranger who's just going to abduct them. That's not in their minds. But then when something like this happens, and then they now have the presence of mind that things like this happen, what do you think they're going to wonder? they're going to wonder why it even happened in the first place. Then they're going to find out that it could have been prevented, and then they're going to wonder who the fuck is looking out for them? You know? And what does Michelle Hope Tyson have to say? Oh, I feel so bad. I've been praying. Bitch, that 10-year-old girl don't need your fucking prayers, and she knows that it is fake as fuck, all right? So you shove those fucking prayers where the sun don't shine, and you fucking apologize to her and her family for this stupid decision you made in 2014 to parole Paul Moffness, and the other stupid decision that she made to parole Robert Patterson. And we're going to find out whether you made that stupid decision to parole Charles Lacey, because now that guy's on the streets, and God knows what he's doing, allegedly running a prostitution ring. I mean, good job, Michelle Hope Taitsino. Model fucking citizen with like shit for brains. So we had the opportunity to speak earlier tonight with Sergeant Paul Tapal with the Guam Police Department, and we brought you breaking news earlier that though GPD is focused on the April 11 abduction as it relates to the Paul Moffness investigation, they also are very much in tune with the likelihood that in the 5 years that Paul Moffness has been a free man, this April 11 abduction likely was not the first time that he reoffended since being paroled by Michelle Taitsino and her gang of merry idiots. So let's play that interview we had with Sergeant Paul Tapal, who offers many different perspectives on not just the issue of the parole and the investigation into Paul Moffness, but also into the safety of kids.
Sort of the fight transparency with the Guam Police Department community, and they did a media blitz and introduced him to the community. And some of the all his interviews was all I saw was his sincere compassion and individual. Like, right on, this is exactly what
I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate the changes that I understand are going on in the police department for its efficient scene operation. I really do appreciate that. And so
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
I enjoyed that interview you had with that. It was really nice. Very cordial of you.
Pardon me?
Really nice of you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you allowed him to go and do his work.
Oh yeah. So like I really believe in the guy, and actually here at Candid we all have high hopes for him. Considering, if I can speak frankly, considering what we professionally and personally went through with the previous guy.
Yeah.
So
And nonetheless, he's very professional, so it's good.
yeah.
Yeah. I apologize, I didn't call you back.
No, that's fine. Can we ask you some questions about the as much as you were able to answer regarding the Moffness case?
Yeah, it's nothing really I can elaborate because the media has been really putting out there his prior conviction.
Okay.
So, we want to protect his rights to due process, and we want to just, go with what we have and with the arrest, and of course the testimony from the victim.
Sure.
But I think Johnny wanted to talk about safety and
Yes.
how to do that stuff.
Yeah. Well, considering what happened, right? What can you give some advice to parents and guardians and what they can do to keep their kids safe walking to or from their bus stops?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get the key point right there is the parents or guardians. It's really informing them of the dangers that do exist out there. And we can't be naive about what may not happen, that we can actually start realizing that things that may happen.
Yeah.
By doing that, we really, it's funny how you mentioned this, we had a really long sit down and discussing how we're going to work with the Department of Education, the Guam Police Department, and of course, reaching out to the parents. The three components. It's really the teachers, teaching the education portion with the kids about safety. We come in and we, with the Guam Police Department, we come in and we talk about safety in general and how to stay safe, and the parents will reiterate and solidify that structure of the teachers, please, the community, and of course what they're teaching, but especially the parents.
Yeah.
And really just knowing, where the routes are, and really paying attention to the kids and emphasizing you need need to go here, you need to do this, and just be, the prudent age and everything. And, we see it a lot. The bus stops, we have parents who just let their kids walk in from minimal to no supervision in some of the bus stops, so they become really soft targets.
I remember there was an incident in front of Daiichi Condos on Ipao Road where there was like a prostitution ring or something.
Oh, that one I don't know often or anything, but what we were focusing on was the vulnerability of the kids being exposed and not having the supervision. So if the event we're in, we see that we have parents, practice strength in numbers, have kids walk together, stay together, and identify stranger danger, and really know how to report and know how to pick up and use intuition or spidey senses in identifying something bad may happen and something bad's gonna happen.
So,
it's really teaching them that.
and this is a recognition that Paul Moffness isn't the only predator out there. There are others who are on the sex offender registry list who are on parole or probation, or they're not even on anymore, right? And then there's others who just haven't even been caught.
Yeah, we're seeing it because, as I mentioned in that previous open forums, April is Criminal Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we really pay tribute to the strength of survivors. And a lot of these, sexual assault cases are crimes behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And, the sexual predators are not the big bad monsters. The sexual predators are people that are close to them,
Yeah.
close to the victim. They've established trust. They've established this and stuff. And it's really a hard pill to swallow for some survivors who realize that the whole bubble has been burst when we come in and we tell kids as young as 5 and 6 that this is wrong. Nobody should touch you there. They realize that, hey, my grandfather said this is okay, and here's somebody in the law that says it's not, and it's just total confusion and total just everything. I mean, at that early age, they're so brittle, they're so frail, fragile. It's just, how do you help cope with that? And that's where we've established partnership with One Behavior. We've established partnership with the Coalition for Sexual and Domestic Violence Awareness, and really it's the community that needs to come together to help heal, because I can't speak from the perspective, but I'm pretty sure you can, and your advocacy about really coming out and coming forward, I really applaud that, because
Thank you.
you sort of play like an advocate for those who were abused, and that's what we ask, and we work closely with the community in assuring them that you're not a victim. Don't be labeled a victim. You should start calling yourself a survivor.
Yeah.
And really coping and motivating to come out and really, and I use Monique Foz a lot because that woman is strong.
Strong.
She has been on a crusade to really, really bring forth the rights of a survivor, to bring forth what we can do as a community to help put an end to it or really mitigate it, but also to provide the healing process and the coping mechanisms and what we need to do in the community. So it's a long battle. Our culture has really opened up now to where we're getting more reports of sexual assault coming from within the homes, and the predators are people that are really close. So when we're starting to do our stranger danger presentation, it's really, we're not portraying a big bad monster. We're trying to teach the recipients that you need to identify these things, that these are bad. You need to prepare yourself for that.
Thank you for that advice. That's actually, I'm gonna, in the show tonight, I'm gonna talk about that perspective. I appreciate that. That's something that's been missing in the conversation.
Yeah, and as part of surviving, it's really understanding that it's not your fault. That you didn't ask for it, and that's what we tell our survivors, that this is not your fault.
That's the most important thing. In that initial contact, after the report is made, the most important thing is, this is my personal experience speaking. The most important thing is knowing that I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, and that should be the crutch, that should be the foundation, because that's exactly how our advocates really empower them, and it's really empowering them to know that if you didn't ask for this, you're better than this, and you can persevere, you can grow, you can strengthen up and everything. But we do have advocates.
Hello? Sergeant Powell? Hello? Oh, there you are.
They deploy empathy, and in some sense, we really do sympathize with the victim, but we have our advocates that really are there with our survivors from the onset, and doing it in the long haul, making sure that we bring justice. But really, it's empowering and giving you the strength to understand that you're not alone. You're not going to this by yourself. You have the support, and it's re-engaging the trust back into the survivor, to trust the people that are the care providers and the service providers that are there to help. It's really empowerment.
Thank you. Sergeant Powell, you mentioned partnerships. Is there a partnership? And if there's not, are you guys thinking of partnering with the Department of Public Works? Because one of the things that has come about from this Paul Mofnis incident, but also has been a discussion for many years, is the bus schedule, and how for many students they're walking to the bus stop before the sun comes up, and at hours before even their parents wake up to go to get ready for work. So is this something that GPD wants to discuss with DPW?
We work with them, sir. We work with them closely in different things, and we thought, we do have a partnership with DPW Bus Services. The superintendent, Frank Dykeno, has been really, instrumental in providing the training to his drivers about, being safe on the roads and stuff like that. But one of the things too that we need to consider is the start of the schools and various schools.
Yeah.
The high schools, they start at 7 o'clock, and really the kids have to be at the bus shelter by 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes in the first break of light, and then it goes on. That's why middle and elementary actually start at a later time. I believe elementary school starts at 8:30. So you have that daylight, the visibility, the safety to walk in light, versus the high school kids who walk in the twilight hours and everything. So it becomes really, how do we balance the times of the schools and the availability of the buses, or some of the shortfalls of the buses that provide the busing from the northern to the southern tip of the island. But nonetheless, it's really, we've actually had a meeting, and we're discussing in our neighborhood watch group, like in developing a safe house, a safe store, a business that can adopt a safe program where kids will identify in the community that can actually bug out to a house that was recognized by the community within a neighborhood watch group, that this is a safe home, this is where I can bug out to, there's somebody that can help me, or the store owner can actually provide the help and the assistance that I need. So, we're working closely with the community, and it really, the last time we had this incident, was, I want to say about 15 years ago, and it was really just, the community at an uproar about, what can we do as safety mechanisms. But, you did it in the beginning, it starts with that.
Yeah, at dark hours, and the whole purpose of the busing system is to provide transportation for these kids, because their parents are otherwise not able to take them to school. So so that's something we'll ask DPW and the Department of Education. Then one last question, Sergeant Powell, and I'm not sure we're able to answer this, but if you can answer however you can. Is the Guam Police Department looking into any possible connections of any CSCs or kidnappings, anything that fits the MO of, any CSCs or kidnappings that occurred over the last 5 years since Paul Mofnis has been paroled?
I'm sorry?
Is the police department, in its investigation to Paul Mofnis, looking into any other CSCs or kidnappings that have occurred over the last 5 years and connecting those to?
Yeah, I could answer that for you.
Okay.
For now, really sure where we're going with this. We really do need to focus on what happened on April 11th.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that we bring justice to the survivor. That girl is going through a lot right now, so we want to make sure that we give justice, justice is served. And should any supplementary extra information come our detectives' way, rest assured that these our investigators who worked in a pretty much round-the-clock shift just to break this case will continue to work to bring justice to other survivors who are out there. So, should that or anything arise, we actually encourage and we recommend go ahead and just come into the Guam Police Department, give us a call, 472-8911.
Okay.
And reach out to us, and we can provide the safety net. We've been working closely with the Office of the Attorney General, and we've also been working with our non-government partners and making sure that in the event there are more victims or survivors out there, that we're ready to help with the healing, help with the coping, and more importantly, be able to bring justice to these survivors that may have gone unreported and may be still lingering out there.
So again, if there are any survivors out there or anyone with knowledge of survivors of Palmophanus or anyone else, but in particular to this Palmophanus investigation, call 472-8911 or go to any of the precincts of the Guam Police Department. Would that be correct?
Yeah, but like I mentioned, we're going to still continue to, our main focus is what happened in April of it, but should anything, again, supplemental information that we receive, we would entertain it, and we'll go in accordance to what is needed to make sure that we, bring closure to that supplemental information of that case. But yeah, 472-8911 or 475-861-527.
8615-7. Okay,
Yes.
we'll get those numbers up. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add, Sergeant Tapao?
Yeah, just, to continue to remain safe and really let's, come together one and it's safer for everybody. And it really is, it really does take a village to raise a child, but it's going to require all of us to bring back this community to where it once was. But it's going to, the work is there, and rest assured the Guam Police Department will continue to work in fulfilling that mission.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Tapao, for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Happy Easter, Juan.
Happy
Good day.
Easter. You have a good day.
So there were several important things to take away from that conversation with Sergeant Paul Tapao. Of course, if you know anyone who has survived Palmophanus over the past 5 years since Michelle Taitino made that stupid decision to release him, or if you are a survivor yourself, please come forward. And as you heard from Sergeant Tapao, they're going to listen to you, and they're not going to brush you off. You're going to be treated well, and you're going to receive the services of this government to try to make things right and try to bring justice for you. The second thing that he wanted to impress upon everyone was, of course, the vigilance of the community. He said it takes a village to raise a child. He's absolutely right. And in practical circumstances, like if you're a high school student, or if your child's a high school student and walks to the bus stop before the sun comes out, try to arrange it so that it's just more than your child walking to the bus stop at that time. If there are other friends in the neighborhood, they can walk together, or if you're able to walk with them to the bus stop. He said that they're building partnerships with like local stores, I call them Korean stores. I'm not racist. They're all owned by Koreans. So like the neighborhood store, I always call the Korean store. And well, yeah. I'm not gonna apologize for that because it's true. They're owned by Koreans. So, they're building these partnerships with these stores because they're normally in the areas where a lot of kids will walk to school. So, an added layer of protection, an added layer of vigilance that the police department is trying to engage the community in. But one of the things that struck me the most about what he said was that, yes, there are monsters out there. There are the strangers who prey upon kids, but sometimes the monsters are in your own home. And it's hard to identify, it's hard to have kids identify their father or their mother or their grandfather, their uncle, or whomever may be the pedophile in the home as a monster, because they grow up knowing to love this person, even though this person is doing something monstrous to the child in their own home. So they want to impress upon young kids, especially, that being touched in your private parts by a relative, um, especially if these sexual acts that are done by relatives, and many times, and maybe even some of us know of something that's going on and we haven't reported. Like, I don't know, because if I knew, I would report it. That's me. But if you know about something that's going on, you need to report it. You need to report it, and if you don't know, or if you're just trying to be vigilant for your family, you need to explain to kids that these so-called monsters can be in your own home, you know, and to say something if something like that does happen. So, how the idea that these monsters prey on kids in situations where these kids are made to trust people like, parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, the church, Palink, made me want to go through, and every night, or every morning, or every night, depending on which show it is, and what our lineup looks like, I want to bring you the story of at least one person per day who has filed something against the Archdiocese of Agana. And today, can you go to my screen, Chalu? Today we're going to start with the case of Leo Tudela against the Archbishop of Agana and Father Louis Briard. And I'll skip all the formal shit, but are we on my screen? During the summer of 1956, around the age of 13, Leo was selected by the church along with other young boys to leave Saipan and stay at the St. Fidelis Capuchin's Friary Monastery in Agana Heights. This is 1956, okay? We have to leave behind everything that we know about modern day Guam and go back in time, if we can, to 1956 and to that monastery back there in the hilltops of Agana Heights that wasn't surrounded by as many houses as it is now. There were not as many people living in Sinahania and Agana Heights as there are now. There are not as many stores, not as many outlets for kids. 1956, that was just 12 years after the war in Guam ended, the Japanese occupation. There was a large Catholic presence. Just as recently as the 80s, if you turned around while Pali was giving the homily or the gospel, your mom or your dad was gonna pinch you in the petna and like twist with the pinch, because you were supposed to be obedient in church. So imagine what 1956 was like. Imagine what it was like to speak out against something in 1956, not just related to the Catholic Church, but just about anything. If you're a kid, you're not supposed to speak out about shit in 1956. What more the Catholic Church? So while he was living at the monastery, he was attending Catholic school, during which time he also served as an altar boy and assisted in various church activities, such as cleaning the kitchen and the rectory. This is before the days of aircon, fast cars, all that shit. At that time, Mariano Ripecki Lanayo, Brother Mariano, was a Capuchin brother living at the monastery at all times. Relevant here too, blah, 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 blah. During the period in which Leo was living at the monastery, Leo was sexually abused by Brother Mariano. Leo reported this to a now deceased brother at the monastery. He told somebody. Leo Tudela told one of the brothers at the monastery that Brother Mariano was abusing him. And according to this, nothing was done. Then Leo met Father Louis Briard. Just after residing for a period of time at St. Jude, Briard invited Leo to live with him at the Santa Teresita Church Rectory in Manilao, Guam, to serve as an altar boy for Santa Teresita Church and help clean the rectory. He was the parish priest at that time, as well as the scoutmaster in the local chapter of the Boy Scouts. This guy was failed for several years, and he wasn't even from, he was from Saipan. His family was there in Saipan. He was staying with the church. He was staying with the priests. He was being abused in the priest's home, and then he gets bounced over to Father Louis Briard to live with him, while his family, those who protected him, trusted him over to the church in Guam. And it's not like, you know, now, where even though it's still expensive to jump on a plane to Saipan, people didn't have the means to just be jumping on planes back then. Planes weren't even, we didn't even have the security clearance lifted yet back in 1956. And so it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to go from Saipan to Guam and Guam to Saipan back then. This guy was stuck. Leo, the young boy, was stuck on Guam, and stuck with these disgusting priests who were just abusing him, and they knew that, and they took advantage of it. And imagine what Leo was thinking, you know, like, he couldn't tell his friends. In 1956, they'd tease him. They'd say he's fag, gela, man florita, you know? They would say he's lying. How was he going to tell his parents? Who was he going to tell on Guam? Anyone here, you know, in 1956, who would believe what a boy from Saipan was saying about their beloved priests? This kid couldn't tell anybody. And all the while, he's being abused. During the period in which Leo was living at the Manila Rectory, he served as an altar boy at the direction of Briard. He was required to participate in the local chapter of the Boy Scouts. During this period, Leo was sexually abused by Briard, both at the Manila Rectory and during Boy Scout activities. It's disgusting. The sexual abuse began when Leo was 13 years old. So here's part of Leo Tudela's testimony regarding the abuse against him. And this is years later. While I was staying at the Capuchin Fathers Monastery in Agani Heights, one night in the early morning hours, I was awakened by someone touching my private area and massaging it. I was shocked, very frightened, scared, and shaking to have a big shadow of a man sitting next to me. I started to cry as I could not believe what was going on. This was in the monastery of God, and how could this be happening to me? He told me, "It is okay, I am Brother Mariano, you sick fuck." I told him to please leave me alone, but he continued to do what he was doing. Finally, he got up and left the room. I took my blanket and covered my face and my whole body. I was crying and shaking. It was a night I would never forget. The next day, I told Brother Ferdinand Pangilinan what happened to me, and soon after that, we were moved to Sinahania Catholic Church Rectory to stay there. While I was at the Sinahania Rectory, I met Father Louis Briard. Father Louis invited me to come to Santa Teresita Church in Manila and help him as an altar boy and to clean the rectory. While I was staying at the rectory, Santa Teresita Church, late one night, I was sleeping. Oh shit, I just fucked that up. Hold on. Hold on. I just lost that. Late one night, I was sleeping on my army bed, and suddenly I felt someone touching my penis and massaging it. I looked up and saw Father Louis sitting to my left and told me, "It is okay, you will feel good, and don't worry about anything." I was shocked and felt very uncomfortable. I was shaking, scared, and started to cry. I was totally embarrassed and ashamed of what Father Louis was doing to me. He was supposed to be a man of God. This was wrong and not right. All these evil incidents have stuck in my mind for some 60 years, and to this day, I still have nightmares and continue to relive those events as if they happened only yesterday. Terrible things come to my mind, and I really hate Father Louis and Brother Mariano for what they did to me. I have cried on many occasions since then and continue to have memory flashbacks of horrible things that happened to me. I feel cheated and molested by people who were supposed to be my protector, comforter, and God's guardian angel. They were supposed to be the representatives of God. I have some major medical issues, and I believe these incidents have contributed to my poor health. Father Louis Briard, before that motherfucker died and went to hell, he gave a statement, and among them he says, Looking back now, I realize that I crossed the line with some of my actions and relationship with the boys, because he did this to lots of boys, and he said there were over 100. During some of the sex education talks while at Santa Teresita, I did touch the penises of some of the boys, and some of the boys did perform oral sex on me. Some of the incidents took place in Manilao at the rectory of the Santa Teresita Church. Because of the many years that have passed, I do not remember the exact dates and times or the names of the boys involved. There may have been 20 or more boys involved. Other locations where the sexual contact may have happened would be at San Vicente and Father Duenas Memorial Schools. At that time, I did believe that the boys enjoyed the sexual contact, and I also had self-gratification as well. I have come to learn the name of one of the boys I had sexual contact with at the Santa Teresita Rectory. His name is Leo Tudela. I apologize to you, Leo, and the rest of the boys that I may have... What a bunch of bullshit. So this dude... It's kind of hard to even fathom what Leo Tudela went through, because, well, I was born in 1980. I couldn't tell you what the early 80s looked like on Guam, except for some faint memories of, like, my brother's baseball games and stuff in Chalampago, and the beach and stuff, you know, like, other than that, there's just no way I could fathom what life in 1956 was like. And how much harder people like Leo Tudela had it when, first of all, he wasn't even from Guam. His family was back in Saipan. They sent him here to receive a godly education, and then all that happened to him. And he left one monastery and thought he was going to be safe, and only to realize that he fell into the hands of one of the most egregious sexual predators on this island that we've ever had, a man of God, so to speak, who now asks for Leo's forgiveness, like anyone gives a fuck about that forgiveness. That, I mean, he just shouldn't have that forgiveness. So every day we'll read at least one of those, so that this church doesn't forget that people are watching, and that there is vigilance in our community against what the Catholic Church has conspired all these years to commit and to cover up against many people, because it's not just Leo. Leo is the very first case that came up in the filings in the district court. Tomorrow, the person who will go to, I think it has initials, so it's an anonymous filing, or not anonymous, but like the name was reduced to initials so that it keeps the person confidential. But let's lighten the mood here. My sister, so I'm not like, I'm not one of those OCD people. I'm a control freak, you know. Of course I'm an addict, like, I fight my demons every day. I've been sober for a while now. But my sister is, she's OCD. This is my oldest sister, Tammy, and if I tell you her age, she'll kill me. She wrote on Facebook, she lives in Las Vegas, by the way. Dear other parents with smart kids who try to play you for a fool. My son had a sleepover. I have said numerous times that colored towels are used for the outside bathroom and the white towels are mine. Please understand that I have OCD and towels are a sanitary issue for me. This is good. This morning I found 2 luxury white towels with red dye color all over them. I was like, what kind of friends did he have sleeping over at the house, Tam? So this is the conversation. Tammy, who said you can use my white towels to dye your hair with? Oh, they dyed their hair, okay. The boys, to themselves, dude, we told you not to use the white towels. Tyson, this is my nephew. Mom, I'll buy bleach. Like, he doesn't have a job. I don't know how he's gonna buy the bleach. than my sister. Bleach doesn't take color out of white towels. I had no idea bleach doesn't take color out of white towels, to tell you the truth. I would have said the same thing that Tyson said, okay? Then Tyson sends me a text. Quote, how to use hydrogen peroxide and bleach, unquote, by some dude named Reichert who doesn't pay my bills or buy my towels. This is a whole day's work to turn my newly dyed red towels back to white, like I have the time to do another project. My sister, working and already multitasking, fuming, quote, I'm going to punch you in the face. P.S. I do not need another project on a Monday. Hashtag, leave my white towels alone. Hashtag, is it too early to drink? Not for Christine Calvo. You just go call her, sis, and she'll have that fucking tonki of beer ready for you. The last thing I want to do tonight, this show is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I got a request, and I won't tell you from whom, but I got a request from someone who wants, remember that thing I read to you guys, like, maybe like a month and a half to 2 months ago. It was something that we found over at the Civil Service Commission. Anyway, it's the filings in against Eugene Tahaji Egros, also known as Gene Egros, formerly of the Mandania Drug Task Force, before his ugly ass was sent back to the Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency for being a ridiculous idiot. Now, on September 3, 2015, document reference number CQA Directive 223-15 to Alberto Lamarana V, that's that dumb fat fuck, Executive Director, Civil Service Commission, from the Director of the Customs and Quarantine Agency. It's a file copy for a notice of final adverse action against Gene Egros. There's like all these attachments, and then it says, like what are all the rules and regulations and blah, 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 right? And then on page 6 of this stupid thing, it is the circumstances that substantiate the charges indicated on the first page of this adverse action. Use additional sheets if necessary, and boy, did they use additional sheets. Name of employee, Eugene Tahaji Egros, employee number 47, date of this adverse action, September 2, 2015. Which camera is it, Chelu? Come on, kid. Please be advised that this agency is issuing you a final notice of adverse action resulting in your being suspended from government service. On August 19, 2015, you were issued a notice of proposed adverse action in accordance with blah, 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 blah. Specifically, on July 17, 2015, the CQA Contraband Enforcement Team participated in a controlled delivery conducted by the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, working in conjunction with the United States Postal Inspection Service Task Force. This was this is 2 years before the creation of Mandania. So Gene Egros was still at customs, fucking shit up over there. And that's why they tried to get rid of him. The CET assignment for the execution of the warrant was perimeter team. Okay. This guy, he wasn't even like first string, okay? He was on second string, or like B team, or like more like the D team. he wasn't like part of like the real guys who go in and conduct the raid. He was the perimeter. He's supposed to watch the perimeter of this raid that's going on. That's supposed to go down, right? Which is responsible for clearing the surroundings of the target residence and making sure that the area is secured from any threats. Assigned to the perimeter team were Customs and Quarantine Agent 1, Justin C. Guzman, and yourself, poor Justin C. Guzman. I bet you. They were assigned. I don't know. They were like, this is probably a conversation that occurred between Gene Egros and Justin Guzman. Because it says they were assigned to clear the surrounding area. So Justin Guzman probably had a machete with him, right? And you know, to clear the area, clear the Sakati in the perimeter, you know, like doesn't make too much noise, you know, just like cut that Sakati down. If they're far enough, like the people inside the house are not gonna hear shit. And Gene Egros, because he's a dumb fuck, Gene Egros, he's probably like, bro, Bar, I got the bush cutter in the back of the car. We'll use the bush cutter so we can clear this area of the Sakati. This guy Justin Guzman was probably like, what are you talking about? He's fucking idiots. Bro, the people in the house are gonna hear the bush cutter. Unless you got the right OP. According to you, prior to the onset of the operation, you stated that you did not utilize and wear your regularly utilized tactical holster, which is secured to your leg thigh area. Instead, you utilized and wore the standard issued waist holster. I'll tell you why. That motherfucker wore a waist holster. So he didn't wear the fucking the thigh of the one that goes here or something. Because they couldn't fucking find one. They couldn't fucking find one that would fit. So you had to wear the waist one. Because he probably had to tuck his shirt in. So, like underneath that fucking potato patch field that he's carrying around. It's like, and his muffin top, right? So he had to wear this waist holster gun carrying thing. He says, according to you, upon securing the assigned perimeter area, that's the Sakati machete thing, Justin convinced him not to use the bush cutter. You attempted to place your weapon into the waist holster, which was located to the right side of your hip. So, he attempted to place his weapon into the waist holster, which was located to the right side of your hip. So I'm only kind of fat, okay? I'm only kind of fat, so I think I can replay this, like, you know, the right way. So, like, if it was me, you know, if this was a gun, I'd be like, right here. But Gene Egros is so fucking disgustingly, like, he's just so deformed. Like, he's got like the muffin top going on, and like his face fat is like over here and over here. You know, that's why like nobody likes him, because he's that ugly and fat. So he, in order to get to that holster thing, he had to like lift up this side right here, right? And so you can see how the gun could like slip out of place and then be like, oops, I couldn't get that in because I'm too fucking fat. And so that's according to him. You stated that upon placing your weapon into the holster, you noticed that your shirt was stuck. I forgot about this part. It's even better the second time I'm reading it. He stated that upon placing your weapon into the holster, you noticed that your shirt was stuck, pinched in between your firearm and your holster. It's like, this shirt was probably tucked in like this. You know, because fat people have to tuck in their shirts. And like when he was moving around from the machete and the Sakati, like his shirt came out a little, right? And because he had to like move the flap around when the gun went down, it took his shirt with him and it got pinched because he's so fucking fat. I forgot about this part. You stated that you then pulled on your shirt in an attempt to free it up, which caused your weapon to come out of the holster and fall to the ground. You stated that you never looked down onto your holster and weapon while pulling onto your shirt. you must have fucking felt that. It was like up against your calapatas, you know, like. It was, you fucking liar. Officer Guzman stated that upon securing the perimeter area of the suspect residence, he observed you attempting to reholster your agency issued firearms. So, okay, so your fucking partner was doing all the work. He was doing all the work. This is what this shit is saying, okay? He was the one with the machete cutting the sakati while your fat ass was fumbling around with your muffin top fats and your shirt, which is suffocating underneath all of those layers, you know? And while he was doing all that work, he looks back and you're like, oh fuck, my gun. Where am I? Oh, there it is. And like you were having problems picking the shit up off the ground because wait. I know there was more. Hold on. Officer Guzman stated, while standing on the right side of you, he noticed your weapon fall to the ground. Officer Guzman further stated that you then reached towards the ground to recover your weapon. I would have been so scared if I was Officer Guzman. Officer Guzman stated that he then proceeded to do a secondary check of the area and looked away from your direction. So that motherfucker was like this. Officer Guzman stated that as he attempted to do a secondary check of the area, he heard a firearm discharge and immediately turned to assess if anybody was shot or hurt. He's lying. He's fucking lying. I'll tell you what Officer Guzman fucking did. He ran the fuck away from Gene Egros. He was like, quick draw McDraw from the Keystone fucking cops is too fucking fat and stupid to handle his gun. And that motherfucker split. He did not. He maybe when he was running, he was like, "Bar, are you okay?" You stated that when you bent over to retrieve the weapon, it went off. Oh my dear Jesus, forgive us our sins. Save us from the fires of hell. You stated that you left the weapon lying on the ground because you couldn't fucking bend down far enough to pick that motherfucker up because you're too fat. And then started to verbally ask if anyone was hurt, to which everyone said no. Now, first of all, that raid was done. That all those druggies in that house, they were like, Brim, did you hear that? Do you owe anyone money? I think that's the collector. They're probably like, oh shit. They fucking sent the collector. And then someone looked outside and saw the fucking Keystone cops running around like idiots on their perimeter. Checking if everybody's okay. Because Gene Egros, that dumb motherfucker, he had one job, okay? That Officer Guzman did. And even while he wasn't able to do that job, he couldn't just fucking keep his trap shut. His gun goes off because he's too fucking fat to holster it. And he tries to pick it up. He's too stupid to pick it up the right way. Everyone was around to see if anybody was hurt. Just his ego. Everyone said, no one was hurt. They were all on the ground, probably like this, you know, doing that police thing. They're like on the ground, you know. All the guns are facing, you know, this house they're about to raid for some drugs or whatever. All that drugs went to Guam Waterworks Authority within the next 3 minutes. Okay, of that gun going off. They flushed that shit down the toilet. There was no evidence. Good job, Gene Egros. Officer Guzman stated that he did a check on you to ensure you were not shot or injured. Officer Guzman, after he was done running his ass away, he came back when he realized everything was okay and that you're just stupid. And the very first person he thought to check was you, Gene Egros. That's how stupid he thinks you are. Holy shit, your own partner. He thinks you're that fucking dumb. Oh man, this guy wins the Darwin Awards. There's other accounts of it, but I'm gonna send that to the person who was asking for. And we need to get the fuck out of here because it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. I hope you had a good laugh. I hope you were educated about a bunch of stuff that was serious, and from the bottom of our hearts and from our studios here in Hagutnya, thank you. God bless you. Good night, good morning, and buenas. That's all.